Hi, my name is Kurt Borger, and I am the director at the Riverview Public Library. And today I am interviewing Frank Checcio, who is a resident here in Riverview at American House on 4th Street. Thank you for agreeing to be interviewed, Frank. We're going to ask you just some background questions and some questions about your service in the Army. First, I would like to ask you, when and where were you born?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay, and when? Okay, well, it says on your bio, say April 13th, 1931.
Yeah,
Okay, all right. Now, we had mentioned when I was talking to you before we started on the interview, now you mentioned your father had served in World War I.
Yes.
Okay. When he came back home from the war, what did he do?
He was all shot up.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't work, and he just laid on a couch. They didn't have TV then, so he used to just roll his handkerchief all day and eat.
Now, was he disabled, or could he walk? Or
He could walk, but it was all short distance.
Okay.
In other words, he would have to walk so far and then rest. Because
Okay.
he was shot up bad.
He had severe injuries that he never recovered
Yeah.
from.
Right.
Now, what you mentioned your mother took care of him for the most part.
Yeah.
Did your mother work outside of the house?
No.
No?
She was there to take care of him all day. And there was 3 boys, 5 years apart. So again, like I said, we ate spaghetti every day, 'cause that's all we could afford, and a salad.
How was your family supported if neither parent could work?
Well, he was getting a pension.
Oh, he was getting a pension from the government.
And then I started working early, selling newspapers and that, to stay with my 2 brothers. But would you have some Army questions or what?
Okay, I'm gonna get there.
I'll
I'm gonna get there. Well, no.
You can sound nervous.
No, don't be nervous.
No, not because of you. It's my condition right now.
Oh, okay. When people watch this, and believe it or not, more people than you think will watch this on cable access, they want to get an idea of your background. Okay, they want to know where you came from. They want to know something like what your parents did, and and the stories about your father. That gives people a better sense of who you are when they watch it. Okay. So, how old were you when you joined the service?
I was 14 years old.
When you joined the service?
Back then, they were taking them that young.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up being in there 4 years.
Okay. Now,
I enlisted.
you enlisted.
That's why they took me young. I enlisted.
Right. Okay. Now, why did you enlist in the Army? Why didn't you enlist in the Navy or something else?
Definitely Army because of my father. He was in the Army. And I hated school. So this was an opportunity. I got out of school and I ended up in the service going to different schools. So I wasn't a schoolboy. I was a shy boy. And I sold newspapers, when I was young. I worked in a drugstore, and I could tell you a good story if you want to hear it.
Okay.
Want to hear it?
Sure.
My brother and I, he was 5 years older than me. That's all we used to do was wrestle.
Which is what boys do, yes.
Wrestle,
Yes.
wrestle, wrestle. And then I was selling shoes at Tom McKeon's, which was squatting because they didn't have seats. So when I went in the Army, I was in great shape, boy. I mean, I could tell you, well, okay, I'll tell you the story if you want to hear. This one boy, Joe Antonelli, I remember his name. He kept dropping his rifle one night because it was at Fort Knox, Kentucky. There was 3 mountains. You would go down and one in the dark, maneuver all day, then you had to climb back up. So he dropped his rifle, and so the 3rd time I picked it up, and none of the guys didn't like it. They said, leave him go. I said, well, don't tell me what to do. I said, I want to help him. And he was Italian. Okay, our neighborhood was all Italian.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all Italian. And so, where was I? Oh,
You dropped his rifle and you were going to help
and I
him.
picked it up, and I carried it all the way down. And they're 9.5 pounds. And I was carrying 2 of them, you know, mine and his. And like I said, I was in excellent shape. So about 8 years after I got out of the service, I heard this fellow, hey, Checcio. He was a Mennonite. You remember the Mennonites?
I know what Mennonites are,
Long
yes.
wearing beard and all that.
Yes, they're not Amish, but
Yeah.
they're close to being Amish, yes.
And I said, he said, you carry an M1 rifle. Johnny, you know, and we like went and hugged. He said, you know, my grandmother, every Thanksgiving, they'll say, let's say a prayer for Frank. And that made me feel good. So that's the end of that story.
Mm-hmm. How old were you again when you enlisted in the Army?
14. To where?
When you enlisted, how old were you?
14.
Okay.
They were listening then because of that young, because I was troubled times.
So that would have. What year do you remember what year that was?
No, I don't remember. No.
48.
Well, what I'm getting from
4
you,
years.
yeah, no, I understand. Okay, so from what I'm getting from you is you enlisted in the Army because of your father. School was not something for you.
Oh,
You didn't like school. And it might have been something, but you probably had a hard, well, you had told me that you had worked in a newspaper and a drugstore and that kind of thing. What were you doing before you enlisted in the Army? Do you remember?
Before I was working for a supermarket, and this was back in Pittsburgh. And then I decided to just go into service. So I went down and I talked to them, and they says, yo, we'd like to have you. So I was only in about 3 or 4 months. I was called in the office, and they said, the SAA wants you. And I said, what's the SAA? The only thing I could tell you is Army Security Agency. And I said, okay. But you'll have to, instead of being 2 years, you have to extend it to 4 years. So I'm with SAA, National Security, and I can't say much about it because everything was not top secret,
But classified to some extent.
but even to me, I was at a lower level, so I didn't get all that stuff, like most of them. But they took me for something. They wanted me, but then I got hurt bad.
How did you get hurt?
Just maneuvers and that. I messed up my head a little bit. But they still wanted me in there. And so that's where I stayed for 4 years.
Were you at Fort Knox the entire 4 years?
Yeah.
You said there's not much you can talk about. Is there anything you can talk about what you did? When
No,
you were there?
because I didn't know too much.
Mm-hmm.
When I was put in that outfit, I got hurt.
Right.
Look how I'm shaking. It's not because of you. No,
Well, I would hope not.
No, I've been feeling this way. And so, it was just that I was in a supply room. That's all I can say is, I broke my nose and there was something else happened. And he says, well, you have to be out, not inside, ASA. So I I was outside, not doing much at all, actually putting time in.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't learning much. But I was ready, everything that way. I got pictures of me at home. I shooting a 50 caliber machine gun. I was lucky at basic. They were taking pictures of me a lot because I was, and so that's about it.
Yeah. Well, let's go. Well, I'll ask some more questions. It's evident you can't talk a lot about, your service.
Because I don't know a lot of what's happening. I was in a special outfit.
Right.
Okay, they tested me for that, but I didn't serve long in it because of my injury.
Mm-hmm.
But they kept me in there, the ASA.
Well, and this ASA, was it mostly working in an office or?
No, this was a supply room.
Oh, a supply room. Okay, yeah, that's right. You had said that. Now let's go back to when you enlisted. What did your mother say about you enlisting in the Army?
Oh, nothing, because, not to repeat myself,
That's okay.
my father came home very wounded. And so I wanted to go out and make money. I was selling newspapers for a while. Then this Mr. Connie, he had back then they called him a drugstore.
Right.
They're a pharmacy now. And I said, Mr., are you hiring? And he says, Frankie, no. So I was in there about 2 weeks later. He said, still want a job? I said, yes. Like I said, I was only 10 years old. And so it turned out that there was always 2 boys taking care of the ice cream. I was doing it myself. He gave me more money, like with about 10 cents now or
Mhm.
more. But back then, boy, 10 cents was 10
Right.
cents.
Well, and you're helping out your family by
Oh,
getting,
yeah.
getting the money. And it sounds like, from what I'm hearing from you, is that by joining the service, you were helping out your family in a way as well.
In a way, yes.
What did you do when you got out of the Army?
Well, I worked in a supermarket for a while, and that's something else, and then I was, let me think. Hold on. I hate this, when I can't think of things. But I sold shoes, and then, I got a job with, how can I explain this? It was a job was a little bit of a secret, okay? Not much to it, but I didn't hear much and I didn't see much. And like I said, they said the FBI will check on you.
Well, yeah, well, that was when you were in the Army. I'm talking about once you got out of the Army.
Yeah.
Okay, what did you do once you were outside, when you were
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
out? It's okay.
I worked
Once
for
you left the Army, what did you do?
Chrysler Corporation.
And what did you do there?
Well,
Was this here in the Detroit area?
no.
No, okay.
And like I said, I always believed in working. And I worked hard, and I kept getting promoted. Then finally I got a job with, they gave me an automobile. So at the time I was married. So I come home, I says, hey, hon, you're gonna have our car to drive, because I'm getting a new car. And I ended up about every time, 1 year or 2 years, I kept getting a bigger car. Finally, the Chrysler 300. And it was good work, because I traveled all over,
What kind of work was it?
just in parts and
Oh, okay.
automobiles. And you threw me off base. What I was bullshitting about. So with the boss and I, we got along real good, because I worked. And I always worked, when I was a kid, I worked.
Mhm.
I was used to working. So I told him, I says, you mind if I get the gasoline at a certain gas station? I don't know what the price is, because I didn't have to pay for my gas. But they're, they give stamps, S&H green stamps. Oh, man, yeah. So, man, I brought home a pile of green stamp, and we got our furniture that we had in the living room. We got this, all with that free stamps, green stamps.
Mhm.
So that worked out beautiful. And finally I retired from there.
You retired from Chrysler. Was that here in Michigan? Where was that?
In
Where did you work for Chrysler?
around Pittsburgh.
Oh, around the Pittsburgh area. How did you end up here in Michigan?
Well, I got drafted, and why did I end up here? I met my wife. You know what? Why did I come to Michigan?
Was your wife from Michigan?
No, but it has something to do with the job. Well, I'm sorry.
Well, it's what? All right. You're here. Yeah. How many children do you have?
One.
One. Do you have any grandchildren? Is it a daughter or a son?
No, what happened was my wife only wanted one kid.
Mm-hmm.
So when Ed was born, she hadn't, tied, where he can't, she couldn't get pregnant again.
Okay. Yeah, she had her tubes tied. Okay. Right.
And it was a good life. Like I said, I was working and I helped out so many bosses, like they were having trouble when I first got in parts, that all the freight lines came in every day, and they were jammed, the place was jammed. So I was in Shire then. So I said to my boss, I says, why don't you divide into 4 sections? This section here of the country, this, and this. And tell them one of them has to have their order in Monday, another one Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And so that worked out fine, because the very first day they tried it, man, they loved it. So that's when it started to really help me out.
So you did some innovation at work, is what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah. So I was a good worker.
Did you have a daughter or a son?
Son.
Son? Does he live in this area?
Texas.
He lives in Texas. Do you have any grandchildren?
No,
No.
no.
Did the 4 years that you served, did you like the service?
I loved it.
What did you like about it?
I was young. I told you I was young. And to me, it was like a job too. And, one of our favorite meals was breakfast. Guess what they had?
Eggs and...
SOS. You know what SOS is?
No, I don't.
Okay, it's a shingle.
Okay.
What it was a pancake, ground meat in a gravy,
Mm-hmm.
and you ate that. Shit on a shingle, we called it. And they must have had a laxative in it, because I hated it. After
I know what you mean, yes.
out in the open, there could be maybe 10 commodes all over. Because the guys, as soon as you ate that, not too long longer, boom.
You had to go.
So that was great, that SOS. It was very good. And it did everybody good. Cleaned us up. Another thing I used to do, they only allowed you 1 canteen a day of water. So at lunchtime, I spot, I see the water tank. So every day, when nobody was around, I went and filled up my canteen. So I always had a full canteen, but I never told a soul, because then they would have done it. Then we would have got caught and would have been in trouble.
Are you a member of any veterans organizations?
No. The American Legion, I did belong to,
Mm-hmm.
the American Legion,
Mm-hmm.
and back in Pittsburgh. And let me tell you a little story. You know, when when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know this.
Which is today, December 7th,
Okay,
74 years ago.
but they, what happened was Johnny Doolittle, wow, I remember his name. He was captain or a colonel, whatever it is. Well, when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, oh, they killed a lot of guys.
Mm-hmm.
So he told them, we got to go back there and bomb them. And he said, most of us won't come back. You know, he was talking to a bunch of people. And, well, they joined, or, you know, they volunteered, and they bombed the hell out of them and kicked their ass. And a lot of them didn't come back. But it was a one-way trip.
Well, what happened is they fixed up an aircraft carrier so it could carry bombers.
Yeah,
And so they got the aircraft carrier close enough for, like you said, the one-way trip back to Japan so they could fly to China
yeah.
after they made the bombing runs. And a lot of them, no, either they were captured in Japan or they were captured in China.
Yeah, that's right. What was I gonna say?
Oh, it's all right. Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you for talking to us.
Okay.
And thank you for your service to your country. And again, thank you for giving us this interview.
Okay, see how cold my hands are?